I just gave a long rambling video, and sometimes I like these videos and I want to keep them authentic, but sometimes I end up rambling or end up talking about a lot of important things, but too many things in one video. I'll talk about the Enneagram, and then I'll talk about, I think I even talk about a book that I'm reading, and then I talk about Easter. But, if I were to give you a real succinct Easter message, and again, this is succinct, less is more, right? And there's a lot in these two rules or things that I'm going to address, but I'm going to say simply, the Easter message for me is saying, yes, there is a higher power, there is a God, and then also saying that when I find my authentic self, there's a lot of talk about authentic selves, and there's probably not one guru around that doesn't address the authentic self and who you really are. But really, ultimately, you're a varied person, just like me. There's lots of aspects. We're like a snowflake. There's snowflakes are dynamic. There's not just one. When you look at a snowflake, or you look at a piece of water, crystallized water, under a microscope, you see there's a lot going on there. Whereas initially, maybe you just saw water. Well, when you freeze that water, you look at it under a microscope, or you look at it at a snowflake, and you look at how dynamic that is. I would say Easter really is simply that there's a lot going on with you, and you're made in the image of God. I am too. And anything that's made in the image of God, whether it's water, whether it's you, me, whether it's a tree, there's a lot going on, and there's a root system, and there's just so much there. So Easter for me is really saying, admitting that there's more to our eyes than we can really perceive. There's really more to our perception beyond what we can see, however the best way to say that is. So my Easter message is simply this, is there's more to life than you and I probably really are perceiving. The next person you meet, just think to yourself, that person is God incarnate. Like the next time you talk to your daughter or your son, or the next person you identify with, just think to yourself for just a second that I'm about to meet a piece of God that's uniquely expressed in this person. And just to have the thought that you're sitting across from a God, small g. You're sitting across from a person made in the image. And then go look in the mirror and go look in your own eyes and just think, you're made in the image of God, and you're made in the image of light. And when we start to equate ourselves with God, we start to understand that we're made in the image, that the same piece that the same stuff that God is made out of, we're made out of. And I know that takes a lot of faith to believe. And that's maybe where faith begins, is to say, there is a God, and I'm made in His image, and so therefore ... Okay, so that's the first step of the Easter Sunday message from Jonathan here, is there is a God, there's a lot going on, I'm made in the image, so are other people. And then the second piece is a little bit more esoteric, and it's simply this, is finding your authentic self and becoming the perfect expression for who God is through you. Because when we live in that space, our authentic place, acknowledging the deity in ourselves and also the deity in other people, we begin to let go of what is not us, and we begin to move into an authenticity of kind of a God spark, of kind of an intersection between God and us incarnate together. And then you ask yourself, okay, now what? Well, then that's where the fun begins. That's where we can say, okay, well, what do I really love? And then you start to move towards that. And then you start to realize, oh, there's a lot of resistance to that. Well, yeah, go read the Bible. The Bible's full of war. That's why. Maybe you grew up in Manhattan, and or Japan or England, and maybe your family are maybe they're all physicians, or maybe they're all engineers, or maybe they're all Fifth Avenue types, or maybe you're from Oklahoma. Maybe you're... One of the biggest things about moving into God is you're moving away from other things and people, and we're learning how to let those things go. And then as we begin to walk in our authenticity, when we start to walk in who we really are, and we become yes, we say yes to what is yes and no is to no as to what is no, we start to move into new places, and we start to move into new experiences, and we start to meet new people, and we start to become happy. And so I'm a Jesuit, and I read the Bible. I read a lot of other interesting things, like this is a book called The Hidden Messages in Water by Dr. Emoto. You know, happiness is a byproduct. It's never something to be pursued directly. And there's a passage, or there's a verse in the Bible that Jesus simply, he says the most simple thing, but it will change your life. And I mean this, it will change your life just in ways you'll never imagine. And Jesus says simply, he goes, let your yes be yes and let your no be no. He says anything beyond that, and I love this part where he says anything beyond yes and no is of evil. And I know that sounds simple, and you perhaps have heard that, let your yes be yes and let your no be no. But the power of that is, I want you to maybe this Easter Sunday go, okay, where is my authentic yes leading me, and why am I saying no to that? And then try it for one day. Try it for 2 days. Let your yes be yes and let your no be no. For example, that means, like, let's say that you're going to go on a date, and maybe you're just not feeling, maybe it's a second date or third date, and your heart's just no. But then the voice of evil says maybe you should feel guilty, or maybe you should. You know, evil likes to should all over us. When I look at my own life, and I look at pain, and I look at ecstasy, and I look at light and darkness, the Bible also says there's power in the tongue. And I've said yes to a lot of things that I was no to. And I've also said no to a lot of things that I was really yes to. So my Easter message, or my Easter challenge to you in these 7-8 minutes is this. For 24 hours or 48, pick a number. Maybe you're a baller and you want to go 3 days. Maybe you're not sure you even like the Bible. Go 6 hours. In practice, let your yes be yes and your no be no. You know, like I'm sitting here by the river, and, you know, this is who I really am. I mean, I'm just kind of a Jesus Christian hippie. I smoke cannabis. It's a spiritual path. I love being in nature. I just bought a book, you know, for $8 I want to really talk to you about. And this is kind of who I am. And this is a part of me I never really discovered until I started to take the passage of let your yes be yes and your no be no. You know, I did 7 days of gratitude, and gratitude's kind of like it's something we just have to practice. Gratitude expels hate from our lives. Gratitude's the counterbalance to hate. And so I won't unpack gratitude in this particular video, but I will say this. Another challenge is letting your yes be yes and your no be no. And to really, really take your yes seriously. You know, it could literally be just a restaurant. Maybe one of your besties wants to go to a restaurant that you don't want to go to, and she says, well, do you want to go to this place? Will you? In that moment, you can let your yes be yes and your no be no. And remember what the passage says. It says, anything beyond yes or no is of evil. And the reason why I'm stressing that last piece is a lot of times people think, well, I want to be nice, or I want to be this, or I want to be this. But the passage is very clear. Let your yes be yes and let your no be no. But it also is very clear that when we move beyond our yeses and our nos, simply our yeses and our nos, that's when we're inviting evil into our lives. Happy Easter. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Hope these videos are helping you.